elevators full of women.
Goat's milk latte drinking.
There you go again.
Please clap.
Somebody's bleach blonde, bad-built butch body.
A what now?
And then we're going to Washington, D.C. to take back the White House.
Where'd my banana fingers?
That's a banana republic without the banana.
Who am I? Why am I here?
Are you a racist?
He's a jackass.
Pokemon go to the polls.
They know one thing. I hate rats.
Well, I'm not a crook.
I grew up castrating hogs.
4 glorious years, I guess.
Vote to confirm a ham sandwich.
Ooh, don't do it.
Still like beer.
20-foot impressive seahorse he's riding.
Correct. It's too damn hot.
What do you say, icon guy?
Icon.
You can't. Never been you were so long.
I have the ability to turn people on.
Sashing down there and vote for this amendment are officially weird.
From one year to the next are the same.
Hello, YouTube. Hello. Welcome to the Keith Edwards Show. I believe we are live. I can't see if we are live or not, but there are your comments. Hopefully you can see me. If you can see me, you can hear me. I'd love to know that. But hello, welcome to the Keith Edwards Show. This is the first time we're doing this thing live. We're trying it new. We're trying to do it. We're trying to do something different because I think that this moment requires something. All right, we're live, baby. That's great. Well, hello. I'm so grateful to be here. As you can see, we want to keep you as a part of the show. So you will be here right with us as we go through the news of the day. And there is a lot of news. But before we get into it, I actually just wanted to real fast give a shout out to our friends at Midas Touch. Did you all see this? Midas Touch has beat Joe Rogan. They are the number one. They're the number one podcast in the country right now. That is incredible. It's incredible. So shout out to Midas Touch. And what I love about this is I think that this means there is this really big pro-democracy movement happening in the country. It's one of those things like, if you strike us down, we will become more powerful than you can possibly imagine. And so I just want to give a shout out to Midas Touch, friends of mine, and certainly people have helped me grow in this new world that I'm in. And I just wanted to give a quick shout out to them because they have really done something incredible that they can beat Joe Rogan and become the number one podcast in the country. All right. So what do we have to talk about today? Well, first, we have an interview with Nikki Fried, who is the Florida Democratic Party chair. Do not believe what you are being told. Florida can still be flipped. She was actually the last person to win statewide in Florida. So I think it's really important to hear from folks that know how to win. Okay. And then secondly, we are going to be going through some of the news of the day. We have really interesting. I hope you'll like it. We have a way for you to kind of interact with the videos here. And then we do also have a Q&A at the end of the live stream. So if you want a question answered, as long as it is a serious question, we want to answer it. So ask your questions, and Hussein, who is producing the show, will be able to grab the questions in real time. Okay, so let's just get right into it. So before, we had a whole thing planned for the live stream. Okay, we had a whole thing planned, and then news happened. So we had to redo everything. And I think that's just like the era we find ourselves in. I wish we were in an era where news didn't happen. Do you remember when Joe Biden was president? Doesn't that feel like it was about 5 years ago? It was like not even 5 weeks ago. But news moved a lot slower then. And Donald Trump's news is not good news, but we still have to talk about it. And so I want to throw this clip because Donald Trump said what we all feared. Let's go to the clip.
Lastly, we have another executive order that President Trump signed relating to independent agencies. This executive order would establish important oversight functions in the Office of Management and Budget and its subsidiary office, OIRA, supervising independent agencies and many of their actions, and also reestablishes the longstanding norm that only the President or the Attorney General can speak for the United States when stating an opinion as to what the law is.
Thank you very much, Will. That was the
Oh my
primary purpose
God.
of.
All right. So what they're saying there is that Donald Trump and his attorney general are the only people who can decide what is and is not legal. I mean, I feel like we kind of knew this moment was going to happen. I don't think anyone who's watching this live stream thought to themselves, Trump 2.0 is going to be just the same as Trump in 2016. But it's still shocking to me to hear him say something so overtly authoritarian. It's just terrifying. And these are not the only authoritarian moves Donald Trump is making. Let's go to this. So he just earlier today instructed all of the Biden era U.S. attorneys to be fired. So let's go. Over the past 4 years, the Department of Justice has been politicized like never before. Therefore, I have instructed the termination of all remaining Biden era U.S. attorneys. We must clean house immediately and restore confidence. America's golden age must have a fair justice system. That begins today. That begins today. This is the authoritarian takeover of our government, because when you have the Department of Justice, when you have the FBI, when you have Elon Musk poking around, it's not democracy anymore. I really do think, and I hate to be so negative on the first show, but it just feels like we have to be in reality around what's happening. And if we're in reality around what's happening, then we have a better chance of being able to get ourselves out of it. But we cannot ignore it. And I think that a lot of people want to pretend like this isn't as bad as it is. And I'm here to say this is really bad. This is really bad. Are we like full into dictatorship? No. But we are in the water and it is beginning to bubble. You know what I was thinking? I was thinking, who told us about this? Who warned us about this? Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris, throughout the campaign, said point blank, Donald Trump is a fascist. Can we throw to that clip?
What is at stake in this election is so fundamental that it really does cross partisan lines. We are talking about whether you will have a president of the United States who takes seriously their duty and their oath to uphold the Constitution of the United States. And there is a clear distinction here, which is that I will and he will not. As evidenced by many statements he has made, including his intention to be a dictator on day one, his intention to weaponize the Department of Justice against his political enemies, and then you just look at what the people who know him best and worked with him in the Oval Office in the White House have said about him, which is he is unfit to serve and would be dangerous if he were president again. And he, even by the former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, has been called a fascist to his core, I am quoting. So what we are talking with folks about today is what I've been talking with folks about since I've been on the campaign trail these last 70-odd days, which is this is a choice for the American people. And it is a choice between whether we're going to chart a new way forward that turns the page on the division, the hate, the chaos of Donald Trump, but also, and maybe even more fundamentally, do we have a president of the United States who stands behind the seal of the president of the United States, taking seriously their oath and their duty to uphold the Constitution of the United States and abide by the rule of law? And so I'm out here talking with folks to remind them of what's at stake. And I'm very pleased and honored that so many people.
Well, we can't say she didn't warn us. God damn it. Does anyone else miss her? Like, where did she go? I miss her. Watching that clip, I was like, God damn it. We really struck out, but she really did just name it for what it is, which is that Donald Trump is a fascist. And I think a lot of people on the right pretended like or acted like we were being extremists. And we're not extremists, baby. We're realists. And it turns out that label couldn't have been more accurate, especially with what we're seeing going on right now. And I hate to be the bearer of bad news for those who didn't know, but also Kash Patel was made FBI director. So not a great moment right now, but I've got to say, the one thing about fascists is if you're gonna be able to remain in power, you have to kind of what is the saying? You got to make the trains and buses and whatever run on time. Certainly, you can't be letting the planes fall out of the sky. And I'm sorry to be laughing about it, but it's ridiculous that one of the casualties of Trump becoming president is that our planes no longer seem to want to stay in the air. So we have a clip of the poor man's Pete Buttigieg. I don't even think you can call him that. Bizarro Pete Buttigieg, the man who wishes he were Pete Buttigieg, Sean Duffy, explaining that planes shouldn't crash. Well, no shit, but let's watch.
Again, air crashes happen, but they were more under Biden than Donald Trump. But the point here is we want to get to a place where we have zero crashes. We don't want people to die in aircraft, which is why what I've done is focus on how do you upgrade the system. But Will, you look at what's happened, the airspace around DCA, that was allowed to stay open under the last administration. The inspections that were done of the aircraft that have crashed, that was done under the last administration. So it is rich that they would come at this administration for the mistakes that they've made and blame us for the crashes. We're going to fix what they refused to fix over the course of their 4 years, and that's the mission of this department.
Oh my God. Yeah, planes aren't supposed to crash. And I just want to fact check that propaganda where he said less planes have crashed during the Trump administration than the Biden administration. Technically true because Donald Trump has been president for 3 weeks, and Biden was president for 4 years. Secondly, I'm going to tell you this as a fact: there were no commercial plane crashes during Biden's presidency when Pete Buttigieg was transportation secretary. And so, as I said in my last video, and I'm going to say it for you right now, maybe it's not about DEI. Maybe DEI is keeping us from dying. My God. All right. And then onto the title. Oh, wait. No, there's all these memes. We got to go to the memes. Okay. We got memes. So first off, here's a video of what someone alleged Pete Buttigieg was actually doing during his time as transportation secretary. Here's the video. That's what Pete was doing. He was in the air, physically saving the planes from falling from the sky. We have a few more memes. Let me go to this. All right.
Hey! What is the tea? The girls are fighting! No! The girls are fighting! Why?
All right. I know there's a lot of people who watch the channel who might not be within the Gen Z millennial humor, but I wanted you to see that because we're going to reference that a lot on this channel. And the girls are fighting. Steve Bannon and Elon Musk are in an epic battle. I believe Elon Musk is currently winning, but Steve Bannon went into the New York Times today and said the following. He said, Bannon calls Musk a parasitic illegal immigrant Steve Bannon, a top advisor during President Trump's first term and a key figure of among his supporters, said Elon Musk wants to act as God. And then here's the full quote. Musk is a parasitic illegal immigrant. He wants to impose his freak experiments and act as God without any respect for the country's history, values, or traditions. Wow. And he went on to say, it's pretty evident the president's using him as an armor-piercing shell that's delivering blunt force trauma against the administrative state. Woo. All right, so we are waiting for Elon Musk to respond. He hasn't yet, but he has said this, and he will respond. But he said this about 12 days ago, and he said, Bannon is a great talker, but not a great doer. What did he get done this week? Nothing. What does Elon Musk even do? Like, what does he do? He tweets all day, but that's besides the point. This is a very big deal. Let me just tell you real fast. Donald Trump is a con man. You know that. I know that. The people he's conning do not know that. When you are aware that someone's a con man, like Steve Bannon does, he is aware of that. You are assuming and hoping that you are in on the con, that you are not the mark. And I think what Steve Bannon, the alt-right, the fascists who want to deport as many immigrants as possible and who want to bring about as much pain as possible on the American people are realizing that Donald Trump was using them. It wasn't the other way around. And Elon Musk and Donald Trump have the only thing that matters to Donald Trump in common. They're both billionaires. And Elon Musk is the richest man in the world. And Donald Trump has been reported to say that he thinks the wealthier you are, the more brilliant he thinks you to be. So he aligns value to how much money you have acquired. And that's all he cares about. So this to me is beautiful. This is beautiful because we need a fracture in this awful movement. And if it's Steve Bannon throwing a punch at Elon Musk, I'm all for it. And also, by the way, as someone who is a Democrat, it is also just like not fun for when you have people on the left kind of critiquing Democrats. But now Steve Bannon and Elon Musk are experiencing the same thing in Maga. And that's like the last thing I want to talk about before we get into this next segment is that there are so many Democrats who are beating up on Democrats in this moment. So this is a writer, Roxane Gay, and she said this is to deal with the plane crashes. Keep in mind, we are not in power. We don't have the House. We don't have the Senate. We don't have the presidency, and we don't have the Supreme Court. But she goes, in addition to everything else that needs to be dealt with, are the Democrats going to do anything about the planes crashing, or are we just going to ride this additional crisis to the end of the line? To which I have to say, what could we do about the planes crashing? We are not in power at all. And I don't know what this knee-jerk reaction we have right now. Like, I do think that Democrats are not above criticism. I've done it plenty on the show. I will continue to do it when I think it's necessary, either in my writing or my videos. But Democrats, I think we also have to be critical in areas in which they can make change. And certainly, if we're being critical, and this is a person who has more than 200,000 followers on Blue Sky, I would think it'd be helpful if you could be critical and have suggestions, or if you can be critical and say what you are doing to make a difference. Because unfortunately or fortunately, the only people who are between fascism, authoritarian and takeover, and stopping it are the Democrats. And what they need right now, more than anything else, is for us to lift them up as much as possible when they're doing something right. And when the Republicans are doing something wrong, we should point that out much more fiercely. That's why whenever there's now like any sort of aviation mishap, I am tweeting it immediately. And some people are like, well, that doesn't have to be the transportation secretary. No. You don't understand. We have to just throw dirt into the air. But certainly we don't need to be throwing dirt at Democrats. And there is a flow chart here that I think just kind of sums it all up really nicely. Sorry. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Okay. And it goes, essentially, who did the thing? Democrats did it. Was it good or bad? It was bad. Fuck the Democrats. It was good. Not good enough. Fuck the Democrats. And for Republicans did it. Was it good or bad? It was good. Never happens. Why did the Democrats do it? Fuck the Democrats. Was it good or bad? It was bad. Why did the Democrats let this happen? Fuck the Democrats. Well, I don't think we should fuck the Democrats. I think they're the only people who are actually trying to do something about this. They're trying to do something about this. I do think they could be a much more aggressive. I think that we have to be much more strategic, but certainly I don't think we should be attacking them on things they simply cannot control. Okay? So now we have a news segment. And so this is the first time we're trying this. So obviously we're just trying stuff right now. This is a pilot live stream. And this is called, what is this called? Tomato Time. This is called Tomato Time. So what we're going to do is we're going to play a clip of a Republican being an idiot. And though we do not recommend hitting people, we do not recommend throwing things at people, but we have to take out our aggression and anger somehow. So what we're going to do is play a clip. And while the clip is playing, we invite you to smash the tomato emoji. Go ahead and find it right now. We want you to smash the tomato emoji because we are going to make sure that they know that we are not a fan of what they're doing. So let's get right into it. Tomato time.
The agency had to rescind those terminations because these were employees who were critical to maintaining the nation's nuclear stockpile. So then who is it making those decisions of which federal employees are terminated?
Well, in that case, the Secretary of Energy would be the one. So what you're describing with the cuts in the Department of Energy, those are directed by the Senate-confirmed Secretary of Energy.
Okay, so that was the Secretary of Energy's mistake.
Well, I wouldn't use the term mistake. I would say that it's pretty standard when you're downsizing government. You make cuts, you assess those cuts, you see who needs to be rehired, who needs to be kept, who needs to be
That's not what happened here, though, Stephen. You know that they were rescinded. These aren't normal things. These were terminations that were rescinded.
I understand that even a temporary interruption in federal employment is a great crisis, a catastrophe for you and for CNN.
Stephen, it seems like the crisis here had to do with the nation's nuclear stockpile. And for these particular federal workers, which I'm not, so this isn't my personal crisis, military members of the Guard and the Reserve.
I don't think it's a crisis, and you don't think it's well. Hold on. I don't think it's a crisis, and you don't think it's a crisis. Then why are we talking about it? It is a crisis for some people. For instance, military members. But you just said you didn't think it was a crisis.
It's not my crisis, Stephen. I'm not a federal employee.
Okay, so I don't think it's a crisis, and you don't think it's a crisis, so no one thinks it's a crisis.
It's not my personal crisis of employment. If you have concerns about the nation's nuclear stockpile, then it is obviously a crisis.
The concerns
it's an issue
when it comes to
Stephen, please, we're getting off track.
Nuclear weapons,
I think Stephen, this is a very important question.
Well, you want to talk about nuclear security? I'm happy to. The nuclear stockpile in this country has been aging and unmonitored for years.
Stephen, I don't think anyone...
Then why are you not celebrating these cuts? If you agree there is waste, if you agree there is abuse, if you agree there is corruption, why are you not celebrating the cuts, the reforms that are being instituted? Every day that no action is taken, the entire salaries of American workers that are taxed disappear forever.
Stephen, let's calm down.
This is not...
We're not having a debate
there's no reason
about whether they're are
well,
places...
you are clearly trying to debate me, and I will be as excited as I want to be about the fact that we are saving Americans billions of dollars, that we are ending the theft and waste and grift and corruption, that we are stopping American taxpayer dollars from subsidizing a rogue federal bureaucracy that has been relentlessly weaponized against the American people.
Okay,
you
Stephen,
may not care about
I'm
this
not
issue.
Talking about
your colleagues may not
there's
care about
not
this
an
issue.
area
But we care about this
to cut in
issue. The
government.
American people
that,
care about this issue.
They also care about privacy.
And the American
so let me
public
ask you about
overwhelmingly.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my gosh. That was beautiful. That was beautiful. Did you all like that? I feel like we could do that segment a lot. There's going to be a lot of opportunities. Just pelting them with tomatoes. Oh man. And have you noticed that he has that tick? He does this when he gets really pissed off. Didn't she say too, like, this isn't my crisis? This isn't my crisis, Stephen. We need to turn that into a meme. This isn't my crisis, Stephen. All right. Okay. So switching gears, we are very grateful to have the first guest ever on the Keith Edwards Show Live, who is the Democratic Party chair of Florida, Nikki Fried. She ran for governor, and she has also been the only statewide elected official Democrat since Barack Obama won, remember that was a long time ago. So it's been a while. So she knows how to get Democrats winning. I wanted to bring her on to get some insights from her on how we can not only win Florida, but what we can learn from the losses that we experienced not too long ago, because I'm a big believer that you can get better, but only if you look at the mistakes you made when you failed. And so I think we do have to be a little bit introspective on what happened, because when we get a little introspective, we can figure out how to do things better. So very excited to have Nikki Fried on the show right now. Nikki, thank you for joining.
Keith.
Hi, thanks for joining. For those who don't know, Nikki Fried is the last statewide elected official that actually won a race in Florida. So thank you, Nikki, for showing that it's possible to win in Florida. And also, you also were my boss about 3 years ago.
Yeah, for a short period of time during my gubernatorial campaign, and I loved having you on. So thank you for all of that work. But yes, I am now chair of the Florida Democratic Party because my goal is to make sure I'm not the last statewide elected Democrat in the state of Florida. So we got a lot of work to do, obviously.
Yes. And I want to talk about that. So I want to get into, what it felt like on election night. I want to talk about, what we can do moving forward, what you saw on the ground, and what you feel like it, because I don't think it's just a Florida problem. I think it's a problem also just like a Democratic problem writ large. And I want to talk about some special elections coming up that could actually make the difference between Republican control of the House potentially. So let's just get right into it. So for election night. All right. I don't think you probably anticipated Miami-Dade flipping, right? And so I would love to know what that felt like as someone on the ground who had been working so hard to not have that happen. And was that a surprise for you?
Yeah, I think that I have to kind of go back and set the stage a little bit about what has happened here in the state of Florida. What has happened is that we used to be blue, 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 and then we got to 2000 and it was Florida, Florida, Florida. And everybody saw us as the pivotal swing state. And no matter where, the presidential elections were, that's what eventually happened in the rest of the country. But unfortunately, time and time election, we kept losing. And so people just started to give up on Florida and give up on financial contributions and people on the ground. And so in 2016, obviously, we lost Florida. We got Donald Trump round one. In 2018 is when I was elected. We thought there was going to be a blue wave and a pink wave across the state of Florida and across the country. I was able to be successful in 2018 when unfortunately the rest of the Democratic ticket wasn't. Fast forward to 2020, there was roughly $300 million that were spent in Florida. And we were even told at that point that we were kind of like the sacrificial lamb, that we just were coming in with all this cash because we wanted Republicans to spend money in Florida so that we can win, which we did, other parts of the country, the Blue Wall, Georgia, and other states. Fast forward to 2022, when we had our lovely governor's race here in the state of Florida. Unfortunately, as we all know, I lost that primary to Charlie Crist and saw the worst Democratic loss in Florida's ever history. And so money dried up and went away. And you fast forward to 2024, that 300 million that we saw in 2020 went to less than 19 million in 2024. So the fact that we didn't get completely wiped out is a testament to the work that we were doing on the ground, a testament to our candidates that were working hard, to the organizing that we did do across the entire state. And we really saw huge wins in 23 and up until 24 election night. We flipped the mayor's race in Jacksonville, electing the first female ever, including the first Black female property appraiser. We flipped a House seat in the middle of our state. We were winning and kicking Moms for Liberty's ass all over the state of Florida during August. We reelected our Miami-Dade mayor in August. And so we really were in a position where we thought anything was possible, that if Democrats turned out, which we saw a huge Democratic turnout in comparable to 2020, 2022, and we saw independents breaking for us all across the state up until that moment, 60, 70%. And we had a lot of Republicans that were just not going to do a round two of Trump. So we were hopeful that we were going to see some more wins up and down the ticket. And unfortunately, we've seen in Miami-Dade in particular that we've had 8 years where we haven't had a lot of ground game from the Florida Dems. We haven't seen a lot of really intense candidate support down there. And so ultimately that the tides churned and we lost Miami-Dade in record numbers. I don't think that is going to stay that way. We still have more Democratic voters in the county as a whole, in the city of Miami. And so I do know that with everything that's going on, we're going to have a chance. But of course, I was a sucker punch that evening, seeing my hometown, my home county, born and raised in, go to Donald Trump in such large numbers. Definitely not what I anticipated.
Yeah, but I think it's a testament to your leadership as chair that the Democrats in Florida felt like they could believe in you and that it wasn't just about, your leader. It was probably a bigger problem than, just like the Democrats didn't send the right flyers to the right homes and addresses, right? So I'm wondering, because I think you're so close to it. And I think I don't want to pretend like we have all of the answers for the next 2 years. I do think we need to really be introspective. What is it, do you feel like, that is happening that it's making it so Donald Trump is looking like a better viable candidate than someone like Kamala Harris? Is it a Democratic Party brand problem? Is it is it our policies are too abstract? Is it what do you think it is?
I think it's a combination of a whole lot of things. I think that we thought that, of course, when you compare Kamala Harris to Donald Trump, we're like, there's no way that people are going to vote for this. And so we were living in our bubble. We thought that there was just no way that this was going to be the case. But I think that it was a combination of everything. I think it was, and I love Joe Biden. Let me be very clear. I think he is an exceptional human being, has given his life to public service. But what we saw in that debate stage, there were tells that happened earlier. And so the question is, what should he have gotten out earlier? Should we have had a full-blown, primary during this time where people across the entire country could see all the Democrats that were vying for president of the United States? Would that have made a difference? I don't know. The fact that we threw Kamala Harris with 107 days onto the national debate, onto the national stage, after silencing her for all intents and purposes for the first 3.5 years of the administration, to the point that while we see all the numbers and the graphs that the economy was getting better, unemployment numbers were going down, inflation, But the reality is that Main Street was still suffering. And while you might have $20 extra in your checking account because you have a good paying job, the reality is you still were seeing high costs at the gas pump. You're still seeing high costs at the grocery store. You're still seeing here in Florida in particular, unemployment, the unaffordability is through the roof.
But Donald Trump was
But we
supposed to
weren't
solve
able.
that on day one.
Day one. But Keith,
I'm
as
so
we
confused.
know, like
It's still a problem?
inflation's going up. You know, right. You know, I loved it. I actually tweeted, I tweeted this week, Trumpflation, hashtag Trumpflation. And the amount of Republicans that like blew up my social media was like, Nikki, he's only been there for 3 weeks. I said, yeah, but he said he was going to solve this on day one and he didn't.
One.
So he owns this moment. Day one, not own, not even talking about it. You know, he's not even talking about any of these issues.
No, now he's saying, well, it might be a problem for a little while.
Go through the roof. We're going to see. Right.
Well, to that point, I wonder, like, you know, no, are you there? Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
Yep. Can you hear me?
I guess, like, you know, yeah, I can hear you. There's a little bit of like static, but I think it's fine. As long as we can hear you, it's okay. I'm going to blame Donald Trump and Ron DeSantis for the terrible connection. So, what keeps you up at night? Like, you know, looking ahead to the next 2 years and knowing that 2026 is going to be here sooner than anyone can anticipate. What keeps you up at night knowing how badly we lost versus where we need to be?
Everything keeps me up at night and wakes me up really early the next morning. It's everything. It is, you know, watching what Elon Musk, the unelected billionaire, is doing to our federal government. We're going to see huge spikes in unemployment across the state and across the country, cutting of even unemployment benefits to SNAP benefits, food access, then next is going to be Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid. To our farmers. As you know, as the past elected, I was Commissioner of Agriculture, and knowing what they're doing to our agriculture industry, $2 billion of USA aid, you know, that thing that got cut because why not, went to American farmers. You know, that all of these feeding programs that they're looking to cut, that's American farmers that get those resources. And now we still have back payments of you know, for our farmers all across the country. And now we're seeing, you know, Canada, who's the #1 purchaser of Florida agriculture, saying not so fast anymore. Maybe we don't like you southern, you regime to the south of us. So those types of things keep me up every day, knowing that Florida has got one of the largest senior populations in the country. And we're talking about cutting Social Security and Medicare and healthcare benefits, either it's the ACA or just general healthcare. There's a lot that is just completely crumbling, and people don't understand, are not quite getting how it's going to impact them until they've lost their job. So there's a lot of things that keep me up, and it's not just the United States. It's what's happening here in the state of Florida. You know, I've got a double whammy here. I both have Trump and DeSantis, and what they're doing, they're not making the state more affordable. They are going after our immigrant population, even ones that are here documented on parolees and TPS. You know, that's 300,000 people that are in our workforce here in the state of Florida. That's your neighbors, that's your teachers, that's your nurses. Those are people that are been part of our society and our culture here in the state of Florida. Our top 3 economic drivers in our state all depend on immigrant populations who are part of our workforce, and they just don't care. It's all about how do we own the libs? How do we get our pounds of flesh? And it's a lot of just pulling up the ripcords, and it's going to cause our economy, and our international allies are gone. In a matter of 3 weeks, they have pissed off Panama, pissed off Canada, pissed off Mexico, pissed off our EU allies, to the point that France is calling meetings, and they're talking about tariffs, and they're talking about all these things and pulling out of NATO. Like, we're not, and don't forget, we fired a whole bunch of people that are watching our nuclear weapons. I mean, and we've got carriers that
is. And then they're trying to rehire them, but they don't know who it is. It's just a nightmare.
And it putting us all in a real insecure place on the global, you know, world and the economy, and Republicans are celebrating it. I just don't understand.
Can we talk about TPS? I think this is I think this is something that, first off, affects so many Floridians. And I don't think it's been really talked about enough. I know there's been some local news stories, but I believe Donald Trump is saying he's not going to. I'm not fully grasping it. It's such a big program, but TPS is essentially like temporary protected status, which means that you are an immigrant here, but you do not have you have documentation, but you are not like you're not a legalized citizen. So they're temporarily allowed to be here, and Donald Trump is saying that he wants to get rid of that. Is that correct?
That is correct. So it is not, when he said mass deportation, he legitimately meant mass deportation. So if you are here on whether it's a visa or it's on TPS or your parolee status, they're not distinguishing between the two. If you are not here as an American citizen and going through our specific programs, again, of like work visas, or you're here on H-2A, which is agriculture workers, you're getting the boot. And so you have a lot of those in the Hispanic community, especially down in South Florida, that are all like, wait, you were talking about me? Oh, shit. And you have our members of Congress, our Republican members of Congress, being like, wait, not so fast. We think that every TPS, applicant should have a special hearing, not just a blanket. And he's not listening to them. He stood there. They all stood there in solidarity as they were talking about this. This is significant. And I'll give you a quick story. People that we call them dreamers, we call people that are on DACA, those are the kids that came here with their parents, regardless of how their parents got here. They were young, and so it's not their fault that they got here, whether legally or illegally. And so they have been getting the benefit of, being part of our society. And so our past lieutenant governor, who's now president of FIU, because of kissing the DeSantis ring, actually sponsored the bill to help in-state tuition to some of these kids to get a quality education and be able to be productive parts of society. Well, she reversed course, and the legislature here in Tallahassee just kicked everybody who is a DACA recipient off of in-state tuition. That's people that are in school right now, like legitimately in school, juniors and seniors that are going to have to find another $40,000 to finish their education. I had a teacher down in Miami-Dade who has been on DACA, who's another one of those programs, since he was a kid, and he didn't show up to the classroom because he had been detained. So now that entire class has no teacher. Like, these are real impacts to people that are in our community.
Wow. So if that is happening, do you feel like that is an opportunity for the Democrats in Florida to make some sort of appeal? I personally don't understand. I mean, I guess I somewhat understand that, like, a lot of legal immigrants who got here feel like they feel like they did it the right way or the legal way, whatever you want to say it. And so I understand that. I do understand why legal immigrants who can vote here would want to vote for Donald Trump if they feel like, there are people who are taking advantage of a system and whatever. I understand that. Do you feel like this is some sort of opening for us now, especially in Florida, where we can make appeals where, like, hey, they're actually not kidding. They don't want to protect you. We do. Do you think that's one way we can potentially get new votes?
Okay, so I do think that there is an opportunity. We have been organizing down there, having not only press conferences, but we are going on to Spanish media and to Spanish radio. We're making flyers, know your rights in English and Spanish and Creole. We are going to be papering communities to make sure people know their rights and show up. I mean, 90% of politics is showing up. Showing up that you give a damn. You give a damn about people's lives, not just for their vote. More importantly, that we care about them as people. And I think that this is an opportunity for us to show up and show the hypocrisy of some of these policies that the Republicans are spewing right now that are going to actually make huge impacts to everybody's daily lives. Whether you are here legally, or you may know somebody that in your community that isn't, or that is waiting in line. These are people that are waiting in line for papers. These aren't people that are just crossed the border, in the dark of night, came into these communities and are like sleeping in like 15-person, houses. These are people that are in line, getting their paperwork, are productive members of our society and our communities, are paying taxes. And we're saying, not so fast, we want you out of here. And I think that there has to be, and so we are showing up and we're having those conversations. In fact, I'll be down in South Florida next week. I have Republican friends that are calling me wanting to sit down and have conversations because they're realizing like this was all too extreme and we got to pull it back a little bit.
Yeah, I do think that at least one opening for us. I mean, I do think that, I just think that my hope is that obviously Latinos and Latinas don't like to be spoken to like a group. I think they like to be seen as individuals. I think that's one thing Democrats got wrong this last cycle is we were messaging to them as if as if they can be talked to like what is the word like an overarching group, a monolith, and that's not the case. They are like Americans. They have hopes and dreams that are different from each family, and I think we can probably speak to them probably from more traditional economic message, a message of we want people who are here to do better, and we want billionaires frankly to do worse. I think that would be one way to help, but I do think that there is an opening there with what the awful things Trump is doing.
Well, and I think, Keith, here's the other thing, and I've been yelling about this for quite some time, is that we started getting labeled as socialists. You remember during the campaign, yo soy capitalista, we got, pinned as like these socialists and communists. And back in 2016, it continued in 2018. It really hit hard in 2020. And there was no response, not from, DC, not from, people here in the state of Florida saying, no, we're not, is not the answer. It's understanding why those words are such emotionally triggers and to try to show that we're never going to be that. And I think this is an opportunity to be like, wait a second, let's deprogram some of those words that were being used. And let's talk about, that we're actually the ones who are fighting for democracy and your quality way of life, when it is the Republicans who are much more mirroring. I mean, look what's going on with Venezuela. I mean, Trump couldn't wait to go and have his administration talk to Maduro, who it's an oil deal. It has nothing to do with the people. Now we're going to send planes back of Venezuelans back to Maduro. What do we think is going to happen to those poor people when they get off those planes? They're going to be detained. The same thing on Haiti. We're going to send back our Haitians back to Haiti to gang warfare. And so I do think that we miss the boat and having these conversations and truly also making distinctions when people came here, why they come here. The generational divide too between if you came here from Cuba in the 1960s is very different than if you came here from Cuba in the last 5 years. And what are those conversations? And don't forget that we've got right now in the state of Florida, the highest number of Puerto Ricans off the island that live here in the state of Florida. And you cannot talk to Puerto Ricans like you talk to every other Hispanic group because they are American citizens. And so I do think that there has been consistently a disconnect. Is what I say to everybody across the country. And this is what I say too. And for anybody who's listening, Nikki Fried, chair of the Florida Democratic Party, cannot solve the Democratic Hispanic problem alone with no resources. Mm-hmm. Y'all need to come in and lean in here. We got the right sauce, but we just need some help.
We need money, basically.
We need money.
All right. So let's end on the special elections because I think this is the biggest thing that's probably going to happen this year in terms of like what the impact on the makeup of the House. Can you just give some insight to the audience on like what is happening in Florida, special elections, and how they can help?
Yep. So we got two special elections. We've got CD1, which is Matt Gaetz's old district. So that is the Panhandle. That's Pensacola. We've got some military bases out there.
Do we have a good candidate?
We got a great candidate. Gabe Belmont is there. She ran against Matt last time. She has a great operation on the ground. So she hasn't come down from campaigning. So she's consistently been campaigning there for probably about 2+ years at this point. She has great operations, thousands of volunteers, raising good money, but they're relatively very red areas. And then you go to CD6, which was Mike Waltz's district, which is a little bit further south of Jacksonville, kind of the Daytona Beach area, a little bit further north of that. Also a relatively redder area, but Josh Wheel is our candidate there, also working his butt off on the ground. We, as far as Florida Democrats, are helping. We're leaning in. We have been coordinating with these candidates and all of our local party, not only our local parties, but also our clubs and our caucuses. We've been holding those meetings. roughly every week for the last 2 months. And certainly go to floridadems.org. On the front website, you'll see how to get involved in CD1, CD6. We're sending postcards. We're getting people re-enlisted and vote by mail. Another thing that Republicans screwed us on. Every 2 years, everybody in Florida needs to re-enlist and vote by mail. We are organizing on the ground. We're phone banking. We've got people coming in from across the country, people coming in from all across the state. And look, anything is possible. These two candidates, I've seen their polling, not that I trust polling anymore by any stretch of the imagination, but it's some interesting indicators that the people of these two congressional districts don't want somebody who's just going to Washington, D.C. to rubber stamp Donald Trump's agenda. They want people that are going to represent their needs. And in fact, in one of the polls, it said, are you more or less likely to vote for the Republican individual because they have the Trump endorsement? In one of the polls, it showed 45% less likely to vote for that person because of Donald Trump's endorsement. So I think that there is a ripple impact of what's happening in D.C. These two seats, if we get high Democratic turnout, independents break for us, and lower Republican turnout, it's an easy winning equation. But certainly everybody can go onto our website, join, and help us lean in here.
Well, and it also is a fact now that Democrats overperform in special elections. So if we are to win, it's more likely when it's a moment when high propensity voters, which happen to be Democrats now, used to be Republicans, now it's Democrats, high propensity voters turn out for special elections. So that also gives me a little bit of hope. But we will have their information. Go ahead.
The other thing too is the Republicans are awful people. Like that's the other thing too. Neither one of these Republicans actually live in the congressional seats. One of them is our chief financial officer, who I sat in the cabinet with. And I don't care saying this out loud, probably is one of the dumbest people in politics that I've ever met. I mean, there is just not a lot of things that connect there. And he's in charge of the insurance industry. That is literally the job of the CFO. So the 400% increases that we've seen in our insurance premiums, everybody, I don't care if you have got a $15 million home or you are renting, you are all feeling the impacts of our property insurance fiasco. On the other side, we got this guy named Randy Fine, who also doesn't live in his district, is the sponsor of major divisive bills, is also a really horrific human being. So we got really two evil people running in these CD1 and CD6s. So anything is possible.
Well, I am a big believer in the impossible happening. We can make the impossible possible. So we'll have a link to their websites in the description of the video. And certainly we will have a link to the Florida Democrats website. Is there anywhere else you'd like people to check out?
I mean, those are probably the two best places because one, we've got the entire volunteer hub that is inside of the Florida Dems website. And then obviously those two candidates are raising dollars. They have their own separate programs that they're running on the ground. They're great people. They're great candidates. They are really busting their butts. And so certainly all hands on deck, any help that we can get from any of you all certainly will help us, protect democracy. Because again, we're sitting at a 217 to 215 congressionals. Two seats? Do you know what that does?
I know.
Do you know what that does to democracy and to our country and checks and balances and all the things, that we all, hold true? Two seats can be flipped here in the state of Florida and put us really in play to have Speaker Jeffries called Speaker Jeffries.
Finally. Well, thank you, Nikki Fried. Thank you for joining. You are doing truly the Lord's work, or whatever God's work or the universe's work. You are doing it. So thank you for joining, and please come back.
Absolutely, anytime. And the biggest message that I can give to all of your listeners, don't give up on us in here in Florida. We have been on the front lines fighting against Project 2025. We've been the lab rats for the last 2 years, dealing with DeSantis and now the seat of power coming from DC to Mar-a-Lago. We are out here. We are out there fighting. Don't give up on us. We haven't given up on our state and the people that live here. We deserve representation that is going to listen to all 23 million people that live in our state, and we understand our impact on DC and democracy and cost of living. So give us a follow on all of our social media pages. If you've got $5 to give to the party, every dollar goes towards helping these candidates and making sure that we truly become Florida back again.
Thank you, Nikki Fried. Woo! Oh my gosh. That was awesome. That was awesome. Lee is in the chat saying clap, clap, clap. I know that means Lee is an old school subscriber. If Lee knows how to clap, because when you clap in the chat and you're here, it shows your clap there. So let's get some claps in the chat. An applause for Nikki Fried, because I do believe someone asked this, and we're going to get into the Q&A. We're going to get into the Q&A. Y'all are making me emotional. This has been so nice. I was really anxious about doing this, and it's been really nice to do it. And I think this could be something really fun and big. So thank you all for being here. And I don't want to get too emotional, but I'm an emotional man. That's why I wear my heart on my sleeve, whatever. So, okay. Okay. But someone said, I believe in the Q&A, something about how, Donald Trump will go after California and New York with the same fervor that he will go after Georgia. And I think there's something to that. I think we should be going after Florida. We should be going after Ohio. We have nothing to lose. $2.5 billion spent. $2.5 billion spent. Let's go into Alabama. Throw $3 million in there. Who knows? Maybe we can flip 2 or 3, state house seats. But we will never do it if we don't try. So we have to try. We have to become more ambitious. We have to be so much more ambitious with the voters. We go after who we think can be our voters and where we look for our voters. Donald Trump, he found voters in new places. And I think we can, with the right message and with the right strategy, get voters on our side who didn't even think they were ever going to vote Democrat. But it's not going to happen if we don't put in the effort to do it. And we have to put in the effort to do it. And like I said in the interview, I'm a big believer that we can make the impossible possible. That is the American spirit. That is what this country was founded on, was that we can make anything possible if we, first off, commit to it. And I want to commit to turning red states blue or purple. Make them fight everywhere. Don't give up ground. Okay, so now we're going to the Q&A. Let's see where I'm just going to pull it up real fast. I think there are some questions. What other questions do we have, Hussein? Apple Gatehart, I believe it was. Gatesart. Apple Gatesart asked if there's a directory for protests. And that's a great question. But I think one of the best places you can look is actually moveon.org. Moveon.org is a great resource for getting involved locally. And actually, a couple of weeks ago, there was the protest at Treasury. I live streamed that, and a lot of folks were watching it. It actually got the protest itself got a lot of news, and that was Move On. Move On organize that. So if you go to their website, you sign up, you let them know where you are, they will email you when there are opportunities for engagement and action. So moveon.org is a great resource. And I think there's one more question. Oh, yes. Someone asked if there was a messaging problem in the Democratic Party, and I would say yes. I mean, does anyone else who's watching think that there's a messaging problem with the Democratic Party if we if we lost against Donald Trump? Yeah, I think we have a messaging problem. Now, I don't know what the answer is for the message, but like I said, I think it goes back to my first point. We don't have to know. What we need to do is run people anywhere and everywhere, and see who wins, what message they run on. Let them do their thing, because it's more likely than not, if you run 20 people and you get 3 successes, we can learn from those successes, but we'll never know what we don't know if we don't try. So we have to get many people out there. We have to let them speak authentically to their own communities. We can't make candidates speak for every single cause and issue. They have to talk about the issues and causes that matter in their communities, and they have to do it authentically. And I think that is a trap we fall under a lot as Democrats, is we try to be purists. And I love that about us, that we believe so deeply in our convictions that we wish others believed as deeply as we do. But we can't get people on our side if we start at a 10. We gotta lead them into it. So my hope is that Democrats get many voters out there, and a lot of candidates out there, and we let them do their thing, and let's not get in the way. I'm a big believer, and we got to lift Democrats up. We can't tear them down. There's a lot of people who want to be critiquing the Democrats, and I do believe that they're not above criticism, but we have to be very strategic about the things that we want them to do better. But we can't be constantly tearing them down, because, I said this the other day, I'm going to say it right now. Imagine if MAGA were as critical of Donald Trump as some Democrats are at the Democratic Party. We would never have a Donald Trump. It just wouldn't exist. But that's not how they work. They don't criticize their party structure like we do. And I think there's something to that. I think we have to be our biggest supporters. And like I said, we can't say, like, they're not above criticism. They're not above criticism. But we have to be very strategic about the things we want to change. And we have to, for sure, put much more energy in tearing down the fascist party trying to take over our country than the Democrats trying to stop it. Okay? So, someone asked if I'm planning on doing a podcast. No, I don't think so. Unless someone pays me a lot of money to do it. I am too busy. I don't think I can do it. But this is more what I want to do, the live stream. So my hope is that you all like this. You got something out of it. This was, like I said, this is a pilot. This is, we were just trying it out, trying to see if there was something there. And if you liked it, we certainly can look into doing it more. But I am extremely grateful that you were here. I believe there were more than 1,000 of you, almost the entire live stream. And when I first started, literally, there'd be like 100. There'd be 100 people at most, and I would be so excited. So this has been incredible. I appreciate you all being here on this random Tuesday on February 18th. And I believe that is it for this live stream. So thank you. I hope you have a great night. I will see you on the normal videos and catch you next time. Thanks so much.